All right, what's good, Case?
What's up, Luke? How's it going?
Pretty good. I just want to start by saying your Twitter account is just such a good follow. I think everyone should check it out because I don't know, just the playfulness that you have, and then also just the ideas that you have are just so much different than like mainstream. So I think I don't know, people can kind of get creative when they see your account and like kind of tinker with what you do and kind of implement it into their own life. So
Thank you. I've always been a bit of an outside the box thinker and kind of person, so it's nice to be able to share some of that and see that it resonates instead of just being kind of written off as an absolute weirdo. I'm glad that I'm able to share some light into your life, and it's pretty cool to hear that. So thank you.
yeah. I guess starting with your approach to like nature, like what does nature really like mean to you and how did you cultivate a life where like you really want to get out in nature more often?
Nature for me is everything. We're nature, and it's bizarre that we have this concept that like nature is out there, and then we're sort of like at this point where we were born into this civilization, this society where we're secluded from it. We're in these boxes called homes, and even when we go out, we're wearing clothing and shoes that now we are realizing really insulate us from a lot of what nature really is. I think a couple practical points of view or perspectives on this are the electromagnetic energy of the earth. So that comes from the clouds, which creates this stuff called lightning, and that happens every minute. Like a lightning strike hits the earth somewhere on this planet. It's roughly every minute, and what that does is it creates an electromagnetic energy. That lightning doesn't just hit the earth and die there. It's setting the energy of the earth, and when we are barefoot on the earth, we're actually absorbing that lightning through the electromagnetic energy of the earth. And this has been studied extensively. There are many great resources to learn more about this, but that practice is called earthing or grounding. And that's one way to connect with nature. Another is through sunshine. So the sun is always shining down on the earth. And we all know that's an incredibly powerful force of healing. And then another great aspect of connecting with nature is fresh air. So the air itself is charged with particles called phytoncides that come from trees. Another thing that you can study and dive into if you're curious. And this is all like, this is really just an entry level understanding. Like, I'm not going to go too deep or extensive on any of this, but those are three really powerful forces of nature that we can access by leaving our boxes, by leaving our homes, taking off our shoes, taking off as many clothes as we can, breathing in the air, absorbing the starlight, the sunshine, and then also the earth energy, the electromagnetic energy of the earth when we are barefoot or touching the surface of the planet.
Mm-hmm. And the first thing I think about when I think about all those things is just like mainly like your exercise outside because like that's just a big component to like what you I think like something that's just different about you versus like people just going to gyms and viewing exercise as purely like calorie based and um like burning calories, but then also with the food eating just calories. So I think can you just touch too on like your whole approach as far as um just not boxing something into being like a number or a philosophy, but rather like the whole approach to things, if that resonates.
Absolutely. We're not robots. There seems to be a large thought process or belief system built around this idea that we're machines or robots, and that we're these simple sort of things that just like turn food into calories, and then that calories get stored as body fat, and when you go to the gym you're burning calories. So it's like tries to oversimplify the amazing infinite intricate beings that we are into this simple formula that has no bearing on reality. The calorie isn't even a real thing. It was created in the 1950s by burning something in a Bunsen burner, right? Like essentially, it was just like burning this thing in a closed system that has no relation to the human body. It was just discovering how much stored energy a piece of food has. Meanwhile, our digestive system is so vast compared to that simple system. So the whole calorie model, you can throw that out the window. You could maybe use that as a way to like kind of approximate the way that our body interacts with like food and exercise, but I honestly find it not helpful at all, and actually to be unhelpful. But to, I guess, relate more to the question that you asked is of how I integrate movement practice into my life. in relationship with the food that I'm eating, it's all kind of rooted in what you were describing before, is just like the healing power of nature. So I being able to access that is incredibly helpful for my mind, based on some of those three factors I described earlier: earthing, sunshine, and fresh air. But there's more to it. Like, I just love the sights and sounds of nature. I love the sounds of the waves
Mhm.
rolling into the shore when I work out at the beach. I love the sounds of the birds chirping in the park when I'm working out at the park. When I'm walking around, I love the looking at plants growing, whether it's flowers, trees, of touching the bark of trees like that. There's a textural sensation that we miss when we're inside. Everything is smooth, and you're cutting off one of your five senses. You're missing that. Imagine if you were walking around blind all the time. That would be really unfortunate and terrible. We're doing that to ourselves intentionally through our senses. Like, we're only touching smooth things. And when you go out in the nature, you get a much more comprehensive, sensational experience through touch. And I love doing that barefoot and working out. So that what that looks like is a lot of body weight exercises. You could call it that. Calisthenics. It's called yoga. You could call it. I kind of fuse all those together in my own sort of practice. I do a lot of high intensity interval training, supersets. For fitness aficionados, you'll probably recognize that terminology, but it basically just means I'm challenging my body, mind, muscle system to the point where it feels like it's being taxed, or it's maxed out, and then I relax, and then I do it again, and that stimulates muscle growth. You don't need dumbbells and barbells inside of a building to be able to do that. You can do that anywhere with no equipment.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, definitely, like, I think the sun too, just being out in the sun, like, you kind of start to just want to explore your body a little bit more. Whereas when you're in a gym, there's more confinement, I think. Like, you walk in, you might like swipe into the gym, you go over to like a machine or like a bench, and it's like you're expected to act a certain way and like do a certain exercise like a certain way. Whereas it's like, I was gonna go to the gym yesterday, and like I was walking over and I just happened to be like, all right, like I'm gonna try, like, because I knew I was gonna talk to you today. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this. And I kind of just did an extra exercise routine where I like did some push-ups, some like hangs around on a bar outside, and it ended up like doing some sprints. And I don't know, got like a good sweat in, felt good after, and doing it all barefoot. And then as well, I don't know, I just feel like I was like doing some like stretches like in between, where it's like when you're at the gym, you're just kind of like I'll like feel weird if I'm like going on my like hands and like doing random stuff that just feels like so natural to me. But like in a gym, it's just not the setting. Like, you're wearing like shoes and like, I don't know, it's just different, you know?
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
100% true. Those observations are resonant with me as well, where it's like half the stuff that I do outside where there's so much space. If I were to do it in the gym, I would be kicked out. They just like laughed
Yeah.
at, or just like they would, politely ask me to leave. And it's like, yeah, outside there's so much more opportunity for exploration and play and expansive dynamic movement that you'll never be able to access indoors, especially in a
Mhm.
typical gymnasium.
Also, I feel like too outside, I don't know if you feel this, but there's just like a different kind of mental um state you get into, where like just like thoughts, I think, just start to appear, and like more flowing going on than when I'm indoors. Can you relate to that?
Absolutely, absolutely, and there's been some research done on this as well. I think when we are inside of a box, our mind is literally inside of a box, and when we're outside the box, our mind can be outside of the box. It's much more expansive when you have
Mhm.
natural landscapes and ecosystems in your eye. You can see far away. Your mind begins to drift to new realms, and it's another powerful aspect of the reason why I got to spend my free time outside and engage in movement practice outside, because you integrate that understanding with the movement practice, and now you're going to be able to really process thoughts in a much easier way than you would if you were inside doing anything else, really.
Mhm. So would the start just be like pretty much just like getting outdoors more, and then kind of maybe like shifting more work outside? Is that your strategy, or how do you incorporate more time just in nature where you don't have to feel like you're going out of your way to do it, and you just, it's a part of your life?
Yeah, for me, it's training, because we all, I need to train in order to be sane and healthy and fit, and I love to do it. So it's something that draws me. It's like my favorite part of the day is going out to train, even if it's just a walk. That's movement practice. If it's more of a rest day, if I challenge myself the previous day and don't want to push myself too hard, then I'll just go on a nice long walk. And if it's a training day, then I'm definitely not going to a gym. It's been 6 years now since I've been in a gym, and there's just no reason for me to ever go back, because I know the alternative is so much better, at least for me. I'm not telling
Mhm.
anyone else what to do, but for me, that's the best way to access it, because I have a job where I have to be at a computer for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and it's kind of hard to do that outside when I need to be plugged into things and access the internet and uh, have a screen, multiple screens that I have to be looking at. So yeah, it basically means training and then walking outside as a way to spend my free time and access that.
I think too, with people that aren't getting enough exercise, and it might just be like sedentary or just don't want to exercise for whatever reason. It could just be like an easy way like that, like you said, like just a bike ride, walk in nature, or even just like going out to like a pull-up bar and just hanging around in the bar. And I think when I started out and was going to the gym, I didn't know what to do. And like you have to like go on YouTube and like look up what exercises to do, or like just search it out. But it's like intuitively, like, okay, maybe I should like hang on a bar and it like feels good on my back, or like
Yeah.
just like reach down and grab my hamstring because it feels good. But like we're kind of like programmed to like not want to do that, if that makes sense. Like we're programmed to like do just like, okay, let me like move my bicep like this. And it's like, no, the body wants to like move around and kind of express like with its body, or with it, I don't know, like the whole like body mind thing where you're like expressing yourself like through your body. So how did you get into that whole thing? Because I think you like stand for that a lot. So
Yeah. I mean, maybe this is a side tangent, maybe not, but something that comes up is have you ever seen when was the last time you saw a kid, like a young kid outside, just like doing their thing?
I was actually thinking about yesterday. I was like, when's the last time I've been to the ocean? Like I could actually like remember the last time, and I don't think it's been for like several months because I'm in Arizona. So, and I mean that's not a good excuse to not like travel, but just haven't been able to get in the ocean and like being able to just swim, and like you get all the minerals from the water, from the ocean. It's just like it's so not a part of our lives, and I think we all intuitively know that like that's what we want to do. And yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
the ocean is powerful, but I mean, if you look at any kid, a kid at the beach is like an amazing. They're amazing teachers there, because they're just running around naked, just like jumping in the water. But you see a kid anywhere, like in the backyard, in the park, like they don't have an exercise regime or a protocol, or they're
Yeah.
not watching YouTube videos before they go play. They're just moving around, and we all have that inner wisdom within us. We had it for the first, you know, 10, 5, however long you grew up, until it was beaten out of you by our culture. But that's within you, it's within me. We can tap into that at any moment. Just go outside and quit thinking so much and just move around and see what happens, and allow yourself to play and explore
Mhm.
and engage in the movements that feel good. And if you have access to an ocean, great. River, great. Lake, great. Wild waters are amazing places to play and move. But if not, you probably have a forest or a mountain or a hill or a yard. There's got to be something where you're able to go and move about and be free. So that's
Mhm.
the perception and the perspective that I would encourage anyone to take who's interested in getting started, is just tap in to your inner wisdom and allow it to be free and go
Mhm.
with the flow.
Do you think part of it is just like the amount of technology we're using that's preventing us from kind of thinking creatively?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, starting with the one technology that we discussed earlier, the home, that puts your mind in a box, but then within that box, we're all kind of staring in the screens, which is another box. So that also constricts the mind to kind of focus on this really narrow band of perception. And then you're consuming these ideas from other people. And that can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. But the focus on technology is really alluring, and it definitely is restricting the mind in a lot of important and probably undiscovered ways, but for sure, yeah.
Mhm. As far as that goes, like, what is the, I mean, like, you can't avoid technology nowadays. So, like, how do you integrate that into your life? Or, like, do you just do it by just getting outdoors and trying to minimize the amount of screen time? Just like, yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, no, I'm challenged by it consistently, especially as someone who's aspiring to create positive content on the internet. So I, also am on there a lot through that, and I just love it. It is really fun and enjoyable to play online, but that's just another reason why I like to train outside in nature, because I'm able to put my phone aside, and not have it with me all the time. You see people, I remember when I would go to the gym, they just like have their phone, they're listening to like AirPods or their earbuds in their phone, and like
Mhm.
they're on their phone in between sets. And it's like, what? I don't, no, thank you. Like I'll pass on that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just another,
Oh, yeah.
another opportunity to get away from it.
No, yeah, I noticed that I was at the gym and I don't know, I was just like trying to look around and um, just see if anyone was like looking up and everyone's looking down. I was like, maybe these are just not the people I want to be around if they're all just, I mean, I'm sure I do the same thing from here and there, but um, I just feel like the gym culture is not like one with like what we were used to do and like what really makes us happy. I think just I think we would prefer to be outside and just playing. So yeah. But I was gonna ask you, so I heard you talk about like the collective consciousness or like the hive mind.
Hmm.
Can you explain like a little bit more about like your theory behind that or just what you know about that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea. The fact that there is a collective consciousness that we can all sort of share and tap into. I think the sort of thought leaders around this, I think Carl Jung was a big proponent of the hive mind or the collective consciousness, and I think he theorized that when we dream, our subconscious mind is somewhat tapping into that. And I think we've all sort of had the experience of, you think of someone and then they call you, or this is actually seen really well with dogs, where dogs are seen on video cameras running to the door before their owners come home, like they know what's happening.
Mhm.
And like, so this collective conscious may even be shared by all beings on the planet. May not just be a human thing or all mammals, who knows, but it's part of this um, somewhat uncharted territory that our ancestors perhaps had a better grip on. I know some Native American tribes could communicate telepathically. There are some that still do that today within the Amazon rainforest. And it's amazing to think about, because we write that off as just like silly nonsense, paranormal, kind of sci-fi hooey. But you can talk to people who have been to the Amazon and have communicated with these tribes, and they're just a little bit more tapped in to nature. And within that matrix called nature, there is some sort of connection that we all have with each other. We're all one. We all came from this earth somehow, many, many, many eons ago, and we all sprouted from the same, mother substance, and even just like the original single-celled organism, if you subscribe to the theory of evolution. And if not, then you think, whatever origin story you believe, it all kind of says we came from the same one thing, right? So it's to
Mhm.
think that that connection to be severed at some point is pretty silly. So yeah, that it's a fascinating theory and a cool one to contemplate.
Yeah. And I think the part about that that I like is the fact that if you're doing stuff yourself that are kind of making this better future, then like perhaps someone else can like do the same. Because I think when I was younger, I mean, I'm only 22 now, so I feel like I'm still trying to like figure stuff out, but I always had this like closed off view that like everyone else is like different and um like they can do their own thing, but I'm going to do like something that's beneficial to me. But the idea that, oh, I could be doing something and it's going to benefit them too because they're going to find it like a way to incorporate it into their life. Um, I don't know, I just like the idea that you can like lift up others, and like in doing so, you're lifting up yourself. So, what do you think about that? And just like the whole idea of, I don't know, just like us being separate selves in general, that whole thought.
Absolutely. I makes me think of the work of Charles Eisenstein. He's a brilliant thinker and author, and his work has been really meaningful in my life. He discusses
Mhm.
morphic resonance, which is a
I'm gonna
theory
write it
within
down.
that's a beautiful theory within the realm of collective consciousness, where yeah, if I take an action, it's going to it's going to essentially send ripples throughout the universe, and it makes it easier for someone else to take that action. So if I decide to go clean up trash at the beach, that idea is going to ripple throughout the time space continuum, and someone else is going to get that idea, and it's going to be a little bit they're going to be a little bit more attracted, a little bit more pulled to that reality where they are cleaning up trash and addressing the pollution problem that we have. And that can be looked at in many ways. Like, you go give a stranger a compliment, like that can completely change their day, which could completely change their week, which could completely change their life. I've been given compliments by random strangers at times when I really needed it, and it made a meaningful impact on my life. And that's something anyone can do pretty much any day. These small kindnesses really have ripple effects that ripple off into eternity. And we're able to, I think, looking at it through the lens of morphic resonance does have like an extra element of incentive to be like, oh, I should really like do something like that, because
Mhm.
it will have an impact beyond this moment. And it's pretty cool to realize that we have that power.
Yeah. I think part of it might be like you have to have a certain level of awareness to like, I don't know, if you're like on your phone outside. I don't I was just thinking maybe like phones and technology and like technology, well, you said houses are a form of technology, but like I don't know, just like those kind of things are interrupting that process, I think. And maybe like EMFs and other stuff. Because when you get out in nature, you kind of feel more connected in general. So maybe that could be a way that you could. Um, I'm just theorizing, but do you think that that's true or could be a case?
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel a little more elevated, a little more human, a bit more of my higher self when I'm able to be out in nature. And I think that's just health, like in a nutshell. Like, the healthier you
Mhm.
get, the more powerful you become, the more you're able to tap into your innate sort of abilities. And being out in nature is undeniably incredibly healthy. So it's just part of that puzzle. It would be the same thing if you were eating you know junk food. That's going to dull your abilities to be
Yeah,
the
like
best.
Doritos or whatever.
Right? That's gonna
Yeah.
kind of kill you. But if you're eating something healthy, eggs, maybe some beef liver, maybe something like fresh fruit from your neighbor, like, that's going to activate your abilities as well. So there are different dimensions to this, but immersing yourself
Mhm.
in nature is undoubtedly super powerful.
When did you first get into health in general, or just realizing that health was more than just like on the physical plane?
It's a great question. I'm actually not completely sure. It was like a slow process where, when I was well, I when I was kind of struggling with my health, kind of growing up in a way where I was fit and kind of lean, but I had braces, I had acne, I had a lot of anxiety and depression, and over time, I'd look out and be like, well, life's just not fair. Other people don't have to
Mhm.
deal with these things. Why do I have to deal with this? Woe is me, blah blah blah. And then over time, I began to come across ideas that led me to believe, oh, actually, I can do something about this. Like, I can change these things. I can learn, and I can integrate new ideas into my life, live a different way, and become a different person. And so it was like a slow process to being very curious about what the heck is going on in the world and how I could better navigate reality, and then just slowly learning and integrating those
Mhm.
ideas to improve my life. So is just kind of being obsessed and curious and eager to improve things, and believing that I really could.
Yeah. I mean, I think like there's a certain way you feel that goes beyond like the physical, where then you realize like what you're doing makes an impact. I think specifically for me, just with diet and sleep, I feel so much different than I used to feel. That I almost like I mean, it's like kind of cliche to say like I feel like a new person, but like that's literally how I feel because in the past I wouldn't want to go up to a stranger and like compliment them maybe or um, even just like do this conversation with you and like want to share content. But now that I feel better about myself due to what I'm doing, now maybe someone else will do the same. So I think, yeah, like it kind of goes back to just influencing others through like the collective consciousness and your actions. But I also think like for yourself, when you realize that the stuff you're doing is actually making an impact, that you might want to change like stuff you're doing that isn't beneficial, you know? But yeah, so next thing I was gonna ask you was um like your phone in general. How do you like prevent the use of it? Like if you go outside or like you're biking to the beach, do you just like put in your backpack and not worry about it? Or what do you do?
Yeah, I'll put it in my backpack and try to not worry about it. But I do have this perception of my phone now where it's almost like I see people who are addicted to their vapes and they're just like constantly hitting their vapes. And my phone has become like this ocular vape where I'm like always hitting it with my eyes and like hitting the dopamine. So it's something that I'm challenged by. I'm struggled with. I don't have a grip on it at all. And
Mhm.
my best strategy right now is to put it in the airplane mode and then just put it out of sight in my bag. But that doesn't work that well. I'm exploring. I'm This is gonna be something I'll focus on in kind of the next few months. Is where there are other strategies that I'm aware of. One is to kind of turn your phone into grayscale. So that's like once you dim the colors and turn it all black and white, that decreases the alluring sort of
Yeah.
sensational aspect of it. And then another thing you can do is like rearrange the apps so that they're a little bit more difficult to access the ones that you kind of use too much.
Mhm.
And then having some sort of discipline protocol where like I only use the thing during a certain amount of certain time of the day and only for a certain frequency or volume. So having more discipline around that is something I'm going to need to implement as I get older and become more aware of the problems that are caused by it.
I think too, like in the future, if there's like some technology where you didn't have to like look down your phone per se, like I could just be like, hey, like call Case, let me talk to him. And it's like, I don't know, just not like, okay, let me pull out my phone and like look down at a screen, but it's somehow just like we're connected through that. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times when we're trying to get on our phone, it might be just like to contact someone or like, oh, I have this cool idea. I want to post something on Twitter. But it's like, I don't want to have to like go to like Twitter and then, oh, maybe I get hit with like the algorithm and it's like pulling my attention like that. So if it's somehow able to I'm somehow able to like post it out without getting like that attention like hook because I like at the root of it we're not wanting to be addicted to looking down at glass, you know.
Yeah,
So I have hope for the future.
good. Yeah, I do too. I don't know what the I think that it's tricky. It's we can imagine a lot of different ways technology going. Some people are, just like installing it into their body, right?
Yeah.
they're going all in. They're shooting it into their brain, and they're like, I got apps in my brain now, and like I'm not interested in going down that path. I kind of like it the way it is. I don't mind having it as a separate object. I don't want like something attached to my head or my wrists. I don't want anything like kind of attached to my body. It could be cool if we had, I don't know, this is super sci-fi, but something like almost a drone that could
Like
like
following you or something.
fly out in front of us and like give us a screen. But like I don't think that's realistic at all. But it'd be
Yeah.
cool. It'd be cool. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm definitely concerned about like the EMFs in general, just like specifically for AirPods, like it's really close to your brain. So do you not bother with those at all?
Yeah, I never bought any AirPods, mostly because I knew I would lose it and it would just be a waste of money, but also because the EMFs are something that I want to mitigate, to be a little bit wary of. So I will never hold the phone near my head. It's always with earbuds, corded earbuds, and then that's how I talk on the phone. And
Mhm.
AirPods not for me. I don't use any wireless headsets. I don't want any EMFs near my brain. Unfortunately, I carry this thing in my pocket, so that's going to be frying my family jewels probably a little bit too often, but I like to always kind of put it in airplane mode when it's in my pocket. That's a great habit. a great habit to
Mhm.
have.
I noticed like in the middle of this conversation, you have like a bunch of plants around your house. Is that like intentional and like something you've done recently, or have you always done that?
I've been in the plants for a while now. We have like probably around 100 in our small place. They've One of the first things that came across in the research I was referring to earlier, of like how to improve life, was just to have more plants around the house for better air quality, but also just kind of boost your mood to have these
Mhm.
little beings around to water them and to care for them. I don't have any pets, but I've got a lot of plants, and I just like I like the vibes. I like the vibrations
Yeah,
of the plants. It's nice. It makes me happy.
yeah. I was thinking about this. I don't know if you want to touch on it, but like your kind of diet evolution from like you got into Joe Rogan, but can you just like go down or Joe Rogan, I think Rob Wolf, but can you just like explain your whole philosophy about how you got into it and then like your entire evolution to today?
Sure. Yeah, it was something that has played out over the past decade or so, where after, well, this was late in college, I first heard Rob Wolf on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he was talking about this thing called the paleo diet, and it blew my mind because up until that point, I thought whole grains are the foundation of a healthy diet, and he was saying, well, actually, wheat, very difficult to digest and could be causing some serious problems, because when was the last time you actually saw a stalk of wheat, and like, have you eaten that thing straight up? I never have. And how is it processed to be even made in the bread, and why am I eating bread and pasta for every single meal? Once I removed that, to just try it, I felt so good. It was amazing how much better I felt when I stopped eating wheat at every meal, and my acne went away, which I'd been something dealing with consistently for a decade, and my mood was just skyrocketed, and that just blew my mind. So from there, this was like, that helped my life as well, and went from someone who really struggled in school, wasn't succeeding at life very much, to the point where moved back home after college and eventually got work as an entry level broker dealer at a large financial firm. And then I moved to Los Angeles because I wasn't really enjoying that job, despite the fact that it was paying well. When I got to Los Angeles, I watched this documentary, a bunch of docs about the plant based diet and how veganism is what we need to do as a species in order to save Mother Nature, essentially. And I always kind of loved nature and wanted to be, a good person, wanted to be a part of building a better world. And so I integrated that idea into my life, eating more plant based. So it was just always kind of thinking, had to minimize meat and had to, eat plants instead. And that brought me kind of back to where I was before, eating more, you know, paleo diet, something that was aligned with evolution, instead shifting to this new diet, which I now know is more aligned with big business interests. And the way of eating where you're focused on eating more plants and less meat is pretty inflammatory to most human beings, because we are evolved to consume meat, and
Mhm.
that is a really essential and critical for most of us. So that really destroyed my mental health, made my body out of shape, worse than it had ever been. And when I discovered regenerative agriculture, I learned, oh, actually, this plant based idea is propaganda being promoted by big business, as I mentioned before. Why? Because it's very profitable. It is much more profitable to be selling something like a Beyond Burger or any sort of plant-based protein than it is to be selling beef, for a lot of reasons. You can study agriculture, you can study, the way these things are marketed and sold, to get a deeper understanding of that. But it's very true. You can ask any grocery store worker what their margins are on the plant-based food versus the beef, and it's a stark difference. So once I learned that regenerative agriculture was a way of farming where we're able to capture, sequester, carbon, extra gas in the air, extra pollution, store it into the soil, and then also create amazing nutrient dense food, and then also create jobs, and then also create the best tasting food. That was an amazing idea that I then integrated in my life. Completely changed me back into being someone filled with vitality, and now I try and share that in hopes of helping others from not going down that dark road that I went down, and instead helping to create the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, which means having a lot of small farms, regenerative farms, and eating a diet that's appropriate for our species.
Yeah. in regards to that, I don't know, I have this idea where it's like if there was like a community where you could have like 100 people or something, and they're all living and eating off of like that farm, but then like provide. I mean, I don't want to sound like socialism, but like I don't know if you had like a band of like 100 people, like it just seems way more natural for the way we evolved. I started reading a book called Tribe, and it talks about some of just like the aspects of how we evolved were to be in a tribe and to be a part of something. So just like I don't know, I kind of find that with like just like Twitter and like in general, like it's not at all similar to what those people had with like their close friends back in the day. But like I don't know, just I think in general, my point is just the regenerative meat component of like going to like small farms and stuff just like feels better um, internally, and then to know that you're not like buying into the propaganda, I guess it just seems like the way to go about it, even though it's more expensive. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, what's the balance if like you don't, if you might be like, okay, I understand why regenerative makes sense, but I don't want to spend extra money on it, or um, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good question, but
Yeah, no, you're touching on a lot of great and powerful ideas there, and it's a big part of the potential future that I think a lot of people want to live in. One in which we're all more connected in community. We all have healthier food. We all have more beautiful surroundings, and we respect nature and are a part of the life cycle. It's a really beautiful vision for the future, and it's going to be difficult to create. I know that for me, I economize elsewhere. So when it comes to spending money on food, I prioritize that, and that means making trade offs. Which I studied
Mhm.
economics in school. There's a lot of really powerful concepts in economics that can be applied to decision making. When that's what economics is, it's the science of decision making. So when you're trying to decide to spend more money on food and you value the benefits that this brings to yourself and to the world, you're going to have to maybe sell your TV and not have a Netflix subscription. You may I haven't had a car for 6 years. I ride my bicycle everywhere. That's not because I don't like having the mobility of a car. It's because it saves me an enormous amount of money in living in an expensive city like LA. That's been really
Mhm.
valuable for me. It's also given me great much more movement and access to
Yeah,
nature being on a bicycle. So I don't think everyone's going to sell their car and get a bicycle, but there are ways to economize and make trade-offs so that you can afford things that you value. And some of that means also understanding that something like a Snickers bar is more expensive per ounce than something like a pound of grass-fed beef. So once you understand that, the price per ounce is absolutely astounding. Think about how much money you spend going out to eat, buying junk food, and then really take a look. Dwight, is this stuff really helping
not
me?
to mention all the nutrients you're getting comparative from a grass-fed beef to a Snickers bar.
Yep, 100%. And those nutrients are going to improve your energy. They're going to improve your mood. They're going to improve your body composition. They're going to really elevate your life in a way that junk food is actually going to be destroying. So, yeah, investing in yourself is another way to frame it. Just to know that, like,
Mhm.
what I'm eating, I'm becoming. Like, this food is becoming me. So,
Yeah.
do I want to become a Snickers bar person, or do I want to become like like a powerful, strong and energetic beef person? So, at the end of the day, it's a choice, and it's a difficult one for a lot of people to make. But I encourage everyone to kind of focus on good quality food if possible.
Yeah. I think I had the benefit of my mom was really into like animal welfare like a few years ago. So I kind of got in, well, being that she was my parent and she was buying like butcher box, like grass fed meat, like when I went to go buy it myself, even though I was maybe having to like spend a little bit more out of my own pocket, I kind of realized like the effect. I don't know, it just tastes so much better. And then I don't know, I just think that that's something that's important to me. But if I was going out and like partying, it's like that's where that money would have gone. So I like to think like, okay, I'm like you said with the trade-off. But yeah, so I think part of it is like getting out of the mindset of like just like what you're like putting your attention towards is kind of like who you're becoming, I think. So um how do you like see people just like getting out of I just wrote down like getting out of the matrix, but like getting out of the idea that like everything that we're being told like we have to do, and like even now like with what you just said, like people would say, oh, I need a car, but you're like, no, I don't need one, I could just bike everywhere, and I don't need a gym, I could just go work out outside. So I think some people, myself included, find it hard to not do the stuff that everyone else is doing, even though we know it might be better to like go out in nature and do all this stuff. But how do you find like the strength and just, I don't know, mental clarity to be like, all right, this is what is right for me and what I need to do?
It's a great question, and Matrix is a popular metaphor that I'm seeing more and more online. It's a metaphor for culture, and the culture has a ton of momentum. So it's almost like this. It's got a gravity to it, right? You're like kind of sucked into this mainstream that's
Yeah.
flowing like a river, and we're all sort of in it and moving along. And I'll say for me, like I'm a bit of I've always kind of been a weirdo in a way, and if you understand the root of the word weird, it comes from I believe it's like a Gaelic word or a Greek word. It's spelled WYRD, so weird, and that means following fate or destiny. So, it in order to break free from the mainstream, you're going to need to be weird. You're going to need to be fueled by a passion for fulfilling your destiny and following your fate and going on a hero's journey. If you understand what a hero's journey is, this is an archetypical journey that humans have been given the opportunity to go on since the beginning of time, and a lot of it means breaking free from the shackles that have been placed on us from our society and doing your own thing, following the dream that's most alive in your heart and your soul, and that's going to mean doing things a little bit differently. But you're going to have to make a
Mhm.
choice at the end of the day. Are you going to want to suffer from the consequences of culture, or are you going to want to suffer from the being different and feeling a little
Yeah.
bit, you know, you're gonna suffer either way. So it's like choice is yours. Do you want to suffer for something that you believe in, or do you want to like suffer as like a prisoner from the consequences of the nonsense that you're being subjected to? So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just another trade off you get to choose.
Yeah. As far as like that goes with like culture and I don't know, just being told what to do and like being expected to do stuff. Like, how do you see government playing into that as far as like, I know government is just a huge part of like the meat industry as far as like kind of getting rid of like the small farmers, even like milk and all that. I don't know, raw milk not
Yeah.
being allowed, even though it's like way more healthy and kind of I don't know. It's just like propaganda to like kind of get you to buy this pasteurized milk that um, I don't really know the details. Maybe you can explain it a little bit better as far as like how they're profiting off of stuff that isn't better for us, but we're like kind of tricked into thinking it's better.
Yeah, no, this is like touching on a big theme of what I'm passionate about is the this understanding that at this point in the history of our nation and of the world, where our country is essentially being co-opted by big business, and this has happened over decades, where every politician is essentially just like a puppet for big business. Like they're being paid by lobbyists to promote big business interests. We saw this play out over the pandemic, where big pharma essentially exerted their will on the American people, and although some protested, most people acquiesced because the government's very strong. They have
Mhm.
an enormous power, and the big business that paid the government is even stronger. So and that is like big pharma. You've got big food. You've got the military. You've got all these massive organizations that are just powerful beyond imagination, that are essentially running things. And I think the raw milk is a good example, because this happened a long time ago, where raw milk was demonized as getting people sick. And in reality, what was happening is that small dairies were being put out of business. They were selling raw milk, of course, as many of them still do today. But now you've got all this pasteurized milk. Why? Not because it was safer, but because you could have these large centralized dairies that could ship milk across the country. And pasteurization is pretty essential for that, despite the fact that you're killing a lot of the nutrients and a lot of the enzymes that allow milk to be digested. This is why
Mhm.
people think they're lactose intolerant. It's not because there's something within them that
Yeah.
is causing them to be have to go dairy free. It's because the milk itself has been killed of the enzymes that allow you to digest milk. This is pasteurized milk, and this has been mind blowing for me the past year, getting more into raw dairy and now being able to digest it and enjoy it and be fueled by amazing raw milk, raw cream, raw milk beer. It's just like awesome. So bit of a rant there. Hopefully that lands on some level.
Yeah. I was I was thinking too, just as far as your hero's journey, do you see like this as far as like bringing regenerative nature, all of that, and like sharing it with the world, kind of inspired by your like playful attitude and all that, and then I don't know, just like sharing. So I guess sharing with the world, but then also letting people know like they can do it too. Like I used to be plant based. I used to be um, I don't know what else other factors like as far as like relationships and stuff, but like I don't know, that's kind of how I feel where it's like I want to share because of how I used to feel. And if we could all be in that better idealized version, even though I know I'm not there yet and I still have improvements to go. But do you think like that's part of like your hero's journey?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say my perspective on this is like uh, multifold. So when you have the ability to use the internet to share what you're learning, and in that sense, what the best way to learn it is to teach. So you're able to teach what you're learning, and that helps you learn it better. And then it could help someone else, along the line. It's also a great opportunity to practice, creativity and playfulness, so that you can use those two things, which is just going to help me be more buoyant, in the
Mhm.
flow of life. So I'm out there just kind of leveraging the internet to share what I'm learning, so I can learn it better, and then also to just be playful and creative and hopefully uplift somebody to share my light. And if my light, you know, helps somebody else, turns them on, then great. We're going to make the world a little bit better. Now there's two of us, and maybe they'll go share the light and spread the message. And now there's like three, four, five. And then before you
Mhm.
know it, we could reach a real critical mass, which is where things really change. And that's what I'm pretty passionate about, just doing my best to try and push forward, because once a certain amount of people are turned on to an idea, then it really becomes the new culture. It becomes the new
Mhm.
stream where we're like swimming in this side stream, and we're inviting people from the mainstream. Hey, it's better over here. I'm telling you, like, this water is great. Come on in. And then before you
Yeah.
know it, we've got a much better society, or at least a little bit of a better society. And then in hopes, and it just gives me hope too. Like, I see a lot of people who are kind of lost in despair, and I have been in that spot. So I just want to share what I've learned to help me get out of that spot, and live in a place of hope and energy and vitality. And that's the best I can do at the end of the day.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, yeah, so like as far as someone who may be in a rut, um, I don't know, feeling like I'm doing something I don't want to do or just not feeling good in general, like is nature the go-to for you or what else? Like diet or just what what is something that they could do?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because it would be ideally I would have to. It's individual to everyone because everyone is unique. Everyone's different. But I think what I love about movement practice in nature is that it combines modalities. So you're getting like a
Mhm.
pretty nice stack, kind of all
Yeah.
in one hit. So it's like barefoot, nature, movement, and then eat a nice meal after that. And you're gonna be like you're gonna feel a lot better. And then from there you can just, maybe pick up a book, learn something, instead of watching, I don't know, reality TV show or whatever, something that wouldn't be helpful. you could then go learn something. And now you're like, oh, now
Yeah.
you're enriching your mind. And like, it's a great platform that I use to like reset myself, reintegrate, like realign with my deepest kind of purpose, my meaning, what I know I need to do. And then from there, I can have more energy and more focus on doing what I want to do and need to do kind of from that platform of nature-based movement practice.
Yeah. And I think we both kind of um, agreed upon like just because we were both from the Northeast, whereas when we got into like the sun, it was just like such a different feeling. And I know like the last few months I've kind of prioritized getting in the sun as much as I can. And I feel like that's something where it's just very underrated. And I was actually telling my mom this, but when I was younger and like all throughout my high school, I was like really depressed and anxious. And what I came to realize is I would wake up, I would immediately get in the car, drive to school, and then be inside from whatever 8 to 3 p.m. and then probably just get in the car, drive home, goes to like the house. And like I've never got any sun. And it's like I compare that and it's like I'm in the Northeast too. So like maybe for all of October through to like February, I'm not even like there's not even that much sun outside. But now I'm in Arizona and I'm waking up to the sun, seeing the sunset and like tanning outside. It's like such a different, not even just like the sun itself, but just what I'm seeing is different, like how I'm feeling. I don't know. It's just so much, so powerful. And it's something that no, you don't need to go buy a supplement or go see like a shrink or something. It's literally like free. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any opinion on that.
Yeah. Oh, that's really true. It is very powerful. It's definitely a big part of my evolution as a man, moving from New England to Los Angeles, was spending more time in the sun and having it change me at a cellular level and just being in a better mood. Like, mood is a funny kind of concept we're all aware of, but I think most people sort of perceive it as random, like the weather, where it's just like, oh, I'm in a good mood today, I'm in a bad mood today.
Yeah.
It's like oscillates, but you can sort of manage or orchestrate your mood to a certain degree. And sunshine seems to be the biggest player in that symphony for me, at least. Being having access to it, I'm very grateful to have abundant access to sunshine most days. But that is an awesome one. But you know, if you don't have the sun shining, it's still out there, even in the clouds. I think a rough part of our culture is how much we sort of don't encourage being sort of shirtless or shoeless. But yeah, I think really taking agency to be someone who is, you know, kind of shirtless and shoeless outside, and, you know, getting as much starlight as you can. And if there's clouds, then at least being barefoot on the earth is gonna help you sort of balance that equation and orchestrate the symphony of your mood to a little bit of a better beat.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just feels better, but then also you're getting like we weren't intended to wear this shirt, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's only natural because that's like what society says, but for so long we just got the natural sunlight in.
It's true. I can't. Don't show me your nipples. Like, don't even. You know, I can't see those. What would happen if I see some nipples? That would just be
Yeah.
the world would end. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember when in like high school and stuff, you would have to have your shorts a certain level. Like you would, you know, like I don't know if you had that, but you would reach your hands down, and if you were a girl and your hands went further than like a certain level, then you would, like get sent home. You have to go change, and it's like I don't know. That's just it seems ridiculous.
It's pretty silly. Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it from like I mean, school is just like so boring, and you're stuck, and it's like someone you see a little bit of leg, and it's like, whew, that's distracting. But you know, it's like at the same time, it's really bizarre. Yeah. It's really
Yeah,
strange. It's really strange.
I don't know if it's just like a wanting to tell people what to do or just like I don't know. I feel like for some time there was just like a sort of like strictness as far as like wanting to like assert dominance over people. I mean, I still feel that as far as like people wanting you to fall in line, but I don't know, it just seems more fun to like go against what people want you to do. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, we're currently, so I'll reference Charles Eisenstein again because he's been such a big influence, and his words are coming to mind. Is where we're currently exist. The culture is built on story. So culture is built on story. Story is sort of the technology that information is passed along, and the overarching story that our culture is built on is one of control, one of dominance. So we're trying to dominate nature, trying to dominate each other. You know, the government is dominating us. We try and
Mhm.
our nation tries to dominate other nations, and we're right now we're coming to the end of that story, and we're experiencing quite a bit of turbulence as a result of that. Like the instability of that story, you know, as we reach its conclusion, is being felt by all, and we're struggling now to create a new story, something that is more powerful. And his story is like, let's, you know, come together and create the more beautiful world the hearts know is possible, because I think we all have this vision of how things could be, how things should be, and it's our opportunity to do our best to kind of create that. And just as you were mentioning, yeah, no one likes being dominated or controlled. You know, we all want to be free. I think it's our birthright to have some level of freedom and autonomy, and it's our opportunity to go do the best we can to kind of live that story in the reality.
Mhm. Um, as far as like you getting into like Charles Eisenstein, some of these other um, like thought leaders and stuff, where were you as far as like reading and learning? Like, was that only after you elevated your physical health and you're like, hey, I might want to go pick up a book? Or have you always been the kind of person that's like been interested in that kind of stuff?
It was like by the time I left college, I just wasn't happy with where I was, and I had some energy to try and change it. I was like, well, you know, fuck this, basically. Like, I'm going to do something about it. And so the finally, when I got out of college, I could actually like learn things that I was interested in. Like, I've always been curious, but I was essentially all through, you know, the first 22 years. It's like you're kind of forced to just learn whatever, you know, school forces down your throat. And it's like the second I got out, I was able to learn things I was curious about. And I just wanted to, okay, I'm struggling here. I want to learn about that. I want to be able to have more confidence when I'm speaking to someone. I'm going to go learn about charisma. I, you know, I'm
Mm,
curious about how the mind works. So I'm going to go read a book about psychology or social economics, and I just started to listen to audiobooks on like 1.5x or 2x, because usually speakers kind of speak a little bit slower than you can read with your eyes. And then I'd go for walks, so I'd go for long
mm,
walks while listening to audiobooks. And over the past 10 years, I've listened to about 1,000 books through that method. I became completely addicted to it because of how much I enjoyed it and how much I was learning. And so through that process, I've been able to come across a lot of ideas and find the good ones, and find the sort of thought leaders and trailblazers that most resonated with me. So that was sort of the practice that I've been using over the past 10 years to be able to kind of like
yeah.
learn and grow.
So all throughout college, were you just not like caring about your health and kind of just like partying, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
like standard like college scene.
I
I
thought it was
was,
healthy. Like, I thought I was fit, you know, it was like,
yeah,
I was, but it wasn't like true health. It was just like bro fitness.
I feel like there's might be like a change coming. I feel like in college, because I've just graduated, but I don't know. I just feel like there's kind of something, there should be something more there. Like it should be a better experience than it is, but like it's not because of like just the copious amount of drinking and like lack of like awareness as far as like what we're learning. Because I feel like we are all developing, living on our own for the first time. And it's like, this should be like the, not to say like it isn't the best time of your lives, because like some people still enjoy all that. Um, but like, I just feel like there's a lot more potential there, and it's just not being used due to addictions, drugs, whatever, just like not good use of your time. And it's like, this is when we have the most time. We're not in a job. We're not in high school where we have 8 hours of the day. And instead of like being able to learn more, we're actually like getting hindered by like all of our surroundings. At least from my perspective, that's kind of like I had to avoid going out and like partying, or like in school I felt like a lot of the stuff I was learning was like not what I really was interested in at all, because they just didn't offer the classes I wanted. So I don't
Yeah.
know if you have any philosophy on that, but
Yeah, I agree. It's uh it's very bizarre and strange that I had to
yeah,
pay so much. I felt like I pretty much had to pay so much money for that, and went into debt to just like get a piece of paper. And I mean, I'm sure it's been useful in my life now, but it's yeah, I think a lot of people do want something different. We just don't know quite what to do, and
yeah.
one day we'll improve it. But for now, I think it's the best we got.
I've heard the idea of like you would have like a school around like a person. So like if I was going to like the Case Bradford school, I would be going on nature walks, reading books, learning how to be charismatic and how to podcast, how to do your fitness routine or whatever. But I don't know. It just seems like an interesting thing where
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
interesting
and I think
philosophy.
I mean that's like a pretty cool way to look at it. Is where like a lot of these opportunities are available now online where you can take courses from various creators or intelligent thinkers, and you can kind of become learned. You can get educated that way, where you're just kind of following your autodidactical impulses and becoming educated through things that you think are important and are interested in, and then creating your own business from there. So I think if anyone listening didn't want to go to college, that there are other ways to do it. But I'm not someone who went down that path, so I can't speak from experience. But I know there are
Yeah,
plenty of people who have, so it's
yeah.
doable.
All right. I want to do this thing where I basically say like when I say something like a topic and then you like kind of like just tell me what the first thing that comes to mind.
All right.
But before that, I just wanted to ask because you have your own podcast and you kind of inspired me to like get going on it and do like health related stuff and just speak my mind. But is there like 1 to 5 like podcast guests that you have that are like kind of like dream guests? Because I know like when I was starting mine out, I was like, all right, I have like certain people I really want to get on. So do you have any of those?
That I it's a weirdly difficult question to answer because I guess it would be cool to talk to really intelligent people. But it's like some of these people I've heard them talk so much where it'd be like, what's something new that I can cover? Like
Yeah.
Charles Eisenstein, for example. It would be great to have a conversation with him just because I've respected his work and he's been such a big impact on my life for
Mhm.
so long. And I guess you could say like throw some other names out there like Rick Rubin's really interesting and cool. Like Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, I don't know, Tim Ferriss, like Andrew Huberman. Just like those were the first 5 names that came to mind. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
yeah, those would be like it'd be cool to get to that point where you're able to dialogue with people of that caliber. But I think it's it's gonna be a while before I get to that point. But it's
Yeah.
I love talking with anybody. Like it's so much fun making podcasts and just having a dialogue and entering the free flow because
Mhm.
you can learn something from everyone, and that's what I've been really enjoying.
I think with what you're saying too, even though like you've heard them talk so much, it's like if you were talking with them, like you would learn like more about like yourself and then just also no 2 conversations are ever the same because like everyone enters the conversation with different baggage than the last time. Even like I think Huberman's been on Joe Rogan like 3 times, and I've listened to it like each one like multiple times, or not each one multiple times, but I've like heard each one, and it's like each one's a different. They're going into it with different stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think even though you may have heard them so many times, you know their spiel. It's still like you would learn a lot from it. I think.
yeah. I think it's from that angle. Just to riff on that, it'd be interesting to think of like who is really. I love thinking who are the most interesting people who are just like who haven't been recorded, talking on podcasts, which is really
Yeah.
fascinating thing to think about. And some of it might just be like kind of seniors in your community, like people who have lived a long life, who have a lot of stories to share, and who like aren't really on the internet. Like those might be
Yeah.
really the best
Or
conversation.
people who passed away and like we just don't have a lot. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think about like Alan Watts. Like if you could just like, we have so much content on him, so that might even not be a good example. But like to have a conversation with him, like is just it seems like it would be so profound, or like other people. But yeah, I think like with what you said, like a lot of the elders, not trying to call them old, but like older people, like they just have so much wisdom to share, and yeah, I think seeking them out is just a good thing probably to do.
It's true. It's true. I mean, uh, yeah. I mean, elders is an appropriate word too, because that's like a very well established sort of label, or it's a mantle that you wear proudly. Like someone's an elder in the community. They've been around. They've been through a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and yeah, they've definitely got deep wisdom to share. I always enjoy speaking with my grandma, and maybe I should make a podcast episode with her.
Yeah, I was like you said, I also enjoy speaking with my grandma, and like she actually listens to my podcast too. So I'll have to tell her to tune into this one. But I think we also kind of miss that maybe in the aspect of like the tribe. Whereas when we were back in the day, we had 100 people in the tribe or 150. If I was going through something, I would go seek out that person who would have the wisdom. But in modern day, we just don't have that because we're confined to like these families or like who we're living with. We're just not, they're not accessible to us, even though like they are through like technology. It's just a little bit different than like, oh, we're all just like huddled around a campfire. I'm gonna go like stumble over to the elder and get some knowledge. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, I need to like go text them and like set up a phone call. But it's like something about that, like just like random, like, oh, you weren't really planning on it. I don't know. It's just like you don't have time to think about it. Like it just happened to like, I don't know. I happened to like I don't know if you like get what I'm getting at, but like sometimes like stuff will just like pop in and you're like, oh, I should probably go do that. And then you just do it without thinking. But then it's like the same thing, but you can like be like thinking about it for like years or like months or a week and you're just like you just never do it. I don't know.
yeah. No, that definitely is a big part of it all. Yeah, yeah,
Just like think less.
yeah. Tough one. Tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I guess we can get into this. So when I say like passive scrolling, what comes to your mind?
Just like sitting on the couch and kind of like drooling and just like scrolling on the phone and just sort of lost in some sort of strange dimension of confusion, and then just eventually stopping and not knowing where you are, who you are, what you've been doing the past 3 hours.
Yeah. All right. The next one I said flow state.
Flow state is real part of the apex of the human experience, where you're able to engage in something that you're passionate about and challenged by and enjoy doing, and it feels amazing, and you're able to just tap into this higher realm, and it's exciting and exuberant.
Hmm. Caffeine.
Caffeine. Caffeine's great. I am uplifted by coffee primarily in the morning. A
Hmm.
little bit tricky. Don't want to have it too late, otherwise it disrupts my sleep. But having
Yeah.
some caffeine, I think, is unfairly demonized. But coffee is one of the great pleasures of life, I think.
Yeah. God.
God, kind of ineffable,
What does that mean?
difficult to describe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you like do you subscribe to any religion or anything?
I
Any
don't
doctrine?
practice any organized. I was raised agnostic, which just means like no religion was really a part of my life. I've studied various religions and I'm interested in them all. I God means a lot of different things to different people, so I understand it as like kind of everything. Like everything is,
Mhm.
it's like the significance of mankind. I think I heard somebody say once, which is pretty cool. Um, yeah, it's. I also love the concept of Gaia, which is kind of cool. I've heard some people talk about that one, where it's like the Earth as God, which kind of resonates
Mhm.
with me. Like if I were to, and even the sun, like the sun seems like God to me. Um, yeah,
It's like everything pretty much.
kind. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Uh, I guess like everyone and everything. Um,
Could be. Yeah.
the last thing I said was like love or like joy. I don't know if those are the same. Love, I guess.
Love, yeah. Love, I guess, is similar to flow state, except you can maybe tap into it at any moment consciously if you learn how to do that. Love for yourself, love for the moment, love for those around you, love for life. I think it's an energy state that you're able to sort of cultivate and tap into for better life. And the more that we're able to tap into that state, I think that's really the foundation and the core of what we want to be doing, and what is missing in a lot of the things that we've been talking about that are causing problems is just a lack of love in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And if we really
Love for
want to,
yourself, for sure.
yeah, yep. Love is the
Uh,
love is maybe God, you know.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Case. I feel like I learned like a lot from this conversation, and I don't know, just being able to like riff on stuff that I didn't even really know was in my head, but somehow came out. I think you had some tweet about that. About, was it like the Jordan Peterson thing or something like that?
Yeah, he talks about the root of the word dialogue, dialogos, and when you understand what the logos is and what a dialogos is, it's pretty cool. Something that worth digging into and engaging in. And
Mhm.
I guess it's a little sad we need to have, like, we both have podcasts in order to access this consistently, but it's fun, and I really enjoyed this conversation, this dialogue as well. So thank you for
Yeah.
giving me the opportunity.
I feel like your energy is like so contagious. I can only imagine, like, I don't know, just being in person, it's just a little bit different. But thanks
Someday,
for coming on, brother.
absolutely enjoyed it.
Yep.
Thanks, Luke.